Welcome to the JFK Facts podcast with episodes dropping every Tuesday night featuring leading JFK researchers, journalists, historians, and witnesses. I'm your host, Jefferson Morley, Jeff to my friends. And I should mention that I'm also co-host with attorney Larry Schnapp of JFK Live, a weekly open discussion of the JFK story, which takes place every Thursday night. So the JFK podcast interview airs on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. The JFK Live discussion takes place on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. So this is the JFK Facts podcast, and tonight I bring you an important JFK development. The last in-depth interview ever conducted with one of the most important living witnesses in the JFK assassination story, Marina Oswald Porter, the widow of Lee Harvey Oswald, the man accused of killing President John F. Kennedy some 60 years ago. Our conversations took place in 1996 and were recorded with her consent. For reasons I will explain, I never wrote about her or what she told me at that time. Porter, now 82 years old, lives a quiet life in rural Texas. Then as now, I wanted her story to be told. So last month, I sent word to her through a mutual friend that I was going to air a tape of our conversation on JFK Facts. She sent word back that she didn't care and was no longer involved in talking to the public. That was characteristically dignified of her. Marina Oswald sees no need to say anything more. And she is right. She does not need to say anything more. People need to listen more.
That's what I mean. The Kennedy assassination, if you figure out all this, but not going to do with it, anything with it. So you facing the fence in the, what do you call it? The engine of Titanic. You can repair it. But if still the iceberg is ahead, so you have to change the course.
Before we begin, I want to recommend listeners follow the conversation in the transcript that accompanies the podcast and is available on the JFK Facts website. I say this because Marina's Russian accent may be difficult for English speakers to decipher at first. As the conversation goes on, your ears will adjust and you can fully understand her, but it helps to read along from the start. If you think Lee Harvey Oswald, alone and unaided, killed President Kennedy, you should listen to what Marina Oswald Porter has to say. If you think JFK was killed by a conspiracy of his enemies, you should listen to what Marina has to say. And if you don't know what to think about the JFK story, well, you should also listen to Marina, because this is the last time this remarkable woman will tell her remarkable story. This story begins in the winter of 1996. I was working as a reporter at the Washington Post, and the first disclosures from the assassination files made public by the 1992 JFK Records Act were making headlines in the Post. George Lardner wrote up a startling new finding about JFK's autopsy. The headline said, "Archives photo not of JFK's brain," concludes aide to review board. I had published 2 JFK stories in the Post in the previous year. Tale of the routing slips about what retired CIA officer Jane Roman said about a recently declassified cable about Oswald, and The Spy Who Loved Him about the son of Mexico City Station Chief Win Scott, who was deeply involved in the surveillance of Oswald in the fall of 1963. I thought a story about Marina Oswald would make a worthy follow-up and attract a lot of readers. A mutual friend arranged a phone interview. Marina Prusakova, the young Russian woman whom Lee Oswald impulsively married in Minsk in 1961, had done her best to escape from public view after her husband was murdered and the Warren Commission convicted him of killing the president. She settled in Texas, married a carpenter, Ken Porter, and raised a family. Along the way, Marina changed her mind about her first husband's guilt. She had told the Warren Commission she believed Lee had killed JFK. By 1970, she believed Lee was what he said he was, a patsy for a crime committed by others. In 1992, amidst the controversy over Oliver Stone's movie JFK, Marina went public with her conviction that Lee was not the assassin. She got a hearing from some of the biggest names in TV news. including talk show host Oprah Winfrey, who was empathetic, and NBC News anchor Tom Brokaw, who was extraordinarily rude. In my call with Marina, I expressed my sympathy while probing for a story angle, what we in the news business call a peg, that is, some new action or fact that would justify a story in the Washington Post, a newspaper of record. Marina and I spoke on 3 occasions for a little more than an hour. With her permission, I taped these conversations. When Marina told me a story about her grandmother's sister, I thought I had the hook I was looking for. She told me that her great-aunt, whom she knew as a child, had been married to an engineer who was falsely accused of a murder. In 1947, he was sent to the Gulag, and her great-aunt was shunned by just about everybody for 6 years until the death of Stalin in 1953, which led to a mass prisoner release. Marina lamented she was living the same fate as her great-aunt, whom she now admired for her fortitude. That was it, a true life fable of history resonating in the lives of ordinary people, how fate is passed from one generation to the next, a Cold War parable that had nothing to do with tired JFK conspiracy theories, yet raised the key question of Oswald's guilt or innocence. I hope to follow up with a trip to Texas to interview Marina in person. Not long after our chat, however, a friendly boss at the Post took me aside and said, in a friendly way, that I could not write anything else about JFK's assassination, and there would be no discussion, friendly or otherwise, about the matter. None. Now, why would that be? I steamed. A newsroom friend took me aside and advised me to say nothing and move on. Jeff, he said, will never go first on this story. If Brand X, Post newsroom slang for the New York Times, broke a JFK story, we might follow. But the Post will never go first, not on JFK. My friend was a Pulitzer Prize winner, and he was describing a reality that I had to respect. So I forgot about Marina Oswald, forgot about the interview, forgot about a story that wasn't meant to be. Fast forward 28 years. When recently moving my home office, I opened a box and found a couple of dozen cassette tapes of JFK interviews I had done over the years. 3 of them were labeled Marina Oswald Porter. I barely remembered our conversation, so I listened to them again, and I listened again. It took 3 decades, and the story wouldn't appear in the Washington Post, but I finally had a good story about Marina Oswald, or rather, a good podcast. This is the Marina Oswald story the Washington Post didn't see fit to print. JFK Facts research director Margot Williams had the cassettes turned into audio files. Podcast master Alex Daubert edited the interview for clarity and length. YouTube editor Ryan Carter found photos of Lee and Marina. Replaying the tape, I'm struck by the sound of children playing in the background. Marina was a caregiver. She was thoughtful. Her imperfect English could not always capture the complexity of her ideas. She scoffed at Freud and compared the civilizations of Russia, America, and Native Americans. She talked about the judgment of history and strangers. She talked about Jackie Kennedy and Earl Warren and her frustrating inability to clear Lee's name despite accumulating evidence that he did not kill the president. It was poignant to me that after all she had been through, she said she was proud to be a U.S. citizen and she gave all her heart to the Constitution. And it was even more poignant to me because so much more evidence has emerged in the 28 years since we spoke. Evidence showing that her husband, far from being a lone nut, was monitored and manipulated by senior CIA officers as he made his way to Dealey Plaza, and that he was what he said he was, a patsy for others who killed JFK. Then as now, I wanted her story to be told. And now, Marina Oswald has one last thing to say. The interview started with me playing devil's advocate. I wanted Marina to respond to the reaction I expected to get in the Washington Post newsroom. I wanted to know how she responded to criticism. She wanted to talk about Freudian theory and my motives.
Oh, just people say, "Oh, Marina, you're crazy." You know, it's like...
I wish I was. Of course, the crazy person never admits that they're crazy.
You've...
But too bad I do not believe in Freudian theory. very much.
Uh-huh.
Do you? Let's blame everything on parents. What's wrong with you? After 18, it's your own life.
Uh-huh.
Are you happy with the things are?
Am I happy with the way things are? I wish the government would tell the truth about the Kennedy assassination. That's what I think.
Why?
Why?
Well,
Because the American people will never...
Just a loony person, who did it alone.
No, because people don't believe that, and if they don't have a credit...
Well, I think it's very disrespectful
Uh-huh.
for officials not to even come truthful with their own people. That just American people should be insulted.
Right.
That the truth had been hidden. It always was there. La Fontaine didn't invent that. It always was there. See?
Right. The story about Elrod, the story.
Well, the little scruples are still laying there.
Right.
But by accident or by sheer perseverance or by your conscience, certain people looking.
Right.
For those things. And maybe it's just a fascination because the Kennedy was young. But the history haven't been written the right way in the history book, and how much more lies there have been there. The Indians always were bad, but maybe the savages have better quality, live better quality of life, really, because they were inside true to themselves than the invaders.
Right.
We actually, I'm sorry, not we, I'm just an immigrant, but the Europeans who invade this country, don't you think so? So this is not bus stop anymore after 200 years. That's your home to defend it.
Is this your home?
Nope. I have no home. I have address in America. I took citizenship after 27 years, tried to earn it, and I gave my pledge with all my heart to American Constitution, and that's what I stand for.
Uh-huh.
Okay? But because it's a home for my children, I have to defend it. But I cannot go back as well, so I'm a person with no home.
I wanted to make clear that I sympathized with her. I wasn't looking to defend the government or debate conspiracy theories. She wasn't either. She wanted to talk about the differences and the similarities of her adopted country, the United States, and her native country, Russia. She wanted to talk about what she had learned.
See, I'm just a woman. And the reason I'm sifting through it, because I was personally involved in it. So it's very important for me to know why and how.
Right.
And the things that I stumble over, this is very valid for American people and for the society, for future society or present society.
Right.
See? So look what happened to Russia, everything built on lies. Is that wonderful? I never wish this for America.
And, I think that's a very interesting comparison, and people will say, oh, Marina, the United States is totally different than
Okay,
Soviet
keep living
Union.
in the dream world. Oh, yes, absolutely. Two different systems, in the names only, really. This was technologically, richer and things like that.
Uh-huh.
But, well, I do not know. It's maybe more abusive, but all they're in a richer culture over there. They maybe were deprived of the system and deprived of food, but it's a very deep roots,
Mm-hmm.
which that's why Russia survived so far. Not economically, but in otherwise.
Right.
But America is very, very young, doesn't have deep roots yet. But I don't want them to have illusion.
Do you think Americans are naive?
Absolutely. We're spoiled. I'm seduced by comforts too.
Right.
I cannot survive in Russia back,
But when it comes to the Kennedy assassination, most people agree with you that Lee was not the,
Yeah, but they never could make connections. Why it's important for them to know the truth. See? They think they're doing me a favor.
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying the researchers who truly research. They see the danger for America and those lies.
Right.
But ordinary people in the street don't. In war, it wasn't too long ago. Wasn't that responsibility of the fathers to protect the children, not to send them to Vietnam?
Uh-huh.
Because they swallowed the lie. America in danger, let's go defend it. Well, the communists are still there. And America did still survive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, but the same news media who's still right there, they were telling us how wonderful it is for us, and we bought it.
I wanted to know why Lee's story still mattered to her. It was for her family, she said. But she also thought that it mattered for the good of the country.
And dozens of proof that we have been lied to. But when your children involved, you must finally face the truth. And protect your children. This is your obligation. You cannot go and lie to a kid, everything will be just fine. No.
I was looking for a Marina Oswald story that didn't turn on the question of a JFK conspiracy or Lee's guilt or innocence. And she told me one.
I'll tell you why I'm aching, all right?
Okay.
Like many of my relatives, not many, but few that I know from the family. In 1937, the husband was arrested, okay, sent away. When Nikita finally had amnesty for that person. But I never thought that I would be living through the same experience in America, you understand? Because the man was accused, my aunt's husband, of the things he did not do. And nothing, in the system that they had, nothing they could do. Now I could feel how strong she was to live through that emotional betrayal.
Right.
But when I pressed Marina for details on her great aunt and uncle, she deflected me. She didn't want to talk about them. Things got testy. She wanted to tell her story, not the story I wanted to tell. She didn't want attention. She didn't want to talk about her family. She'd had too much of that in her life. She wanted vindication. She had read enough in the JFK literature to conclude that Lee was not guilty. She wanted the truth.
But I was thinking, through the books, they will learn something. But the books, for me, don't help. I need to have official recognition of the wrongdoing. Admission, okay?
You're still hoping for that from the U.S. government?
Yes, I expect that from them.
And would you say that?
That's what I want to say it in an interview.
And who do you want to say that to?
I do not know whoever is responsible that,
Well, let's start. President Clinton?
I already asked, I beg, I'm practically begging. I asked President Clinton, and
Did you send him a letter?
A TV show. I think it's time for President Clinton. So now I think I'm just going to ask the Congress.
To Congress? Uh-huh. I think that's a good idea.
Not to have another investigation.
No, I think...
But to get at the facts with the sense and finally admit it to the public. Something
Right.
wrong was done today.
Yeah.
See, I just know who did not do it. Let them find out who did it. I don't care.
Right.
See? But this evidence was available. It was hush. Many people knew it. It exists. But they're all hiding,
Marina felt betrayed by Norman Mailer, the famous novelist who had just published Oswald's Tale, another depiction of Lee as a crazed, hateful malcontent who killed JFK because, well, even the imaginative Mailer couldn't concoct a very plausible scenario for why Lee would kill a president he admired and then deny that he had done so. Yet she wore her bitterness lightly, which I liked.
Tell me about your experience with Mailer.
My experience with Mailer? At the end, I still like him.
You still like him?
Mm-hmm.
But he would,
He didn't deliver what was expected of him.
Right.
The reasons are his own. And he is accountable to them.
And what do you think those are?
Hmm?
What do you think the reason is?
I don't think he really cares. I think it's maybe his physical, emotional. He's just tired.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he took the safe way out.
Yeah. Maybe he fought all his life and he's just tired of fighting. And he needs the money. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So to rescue with this one book never to be published, that's suicide, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
He knew it was a lie, but he published it anyway, so that was the thing.
I wanted to know how she thought about another woman enmeshed in the JFK saga. former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, who had recently passed away. She thought Jackie was lucky.
What did you think when you heard that Jacqueline Onassis had died?
Too young. Too soon.
Yeah. Did you like her?
Oh, God. Yes, who didn't? I don't know her.
Uh-huh.
She can allow luxury of keeping quiet, and I can't. See, I cannot afford it to be quiet. I wish I could.
Yeah. So Jackie knew?
I think so.
I think so too.
She never told me so, but I think she did. Well, it was obvious. She was the best witness. She was there.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
She saw her husband's wound. I wish I could nobly, walk away. Huh? But I'm not the crown princess after I walked away, which I don't want to be. I just want to be a decent human being, that's all.
One person Marina wanted to talk about was Chief Justice Earl Warren, who headed the commission that effectively convicted her husband without allowing anyone to defend him. She said she liked Warren, and why she liked him was especially intriguing.
Isn't it funny? I like Warren. Somehow he felt sympathetic toward me. You just could feel it. And I think people have been accusing him of being not so strict with me. I think he knew the truth. Don't you think so? And he let me to slack down because he knew that I was the wrong bird.
Uh-huh. I had never thought about that before. You think he knew?
What do you think?
I don't know his story. I don't know him.
I do not know his story. So this is just my speculation. I just can tell you from all the people that present there, only comfort that I felt. Not for what he did. Everybody were polite, more or less, except
Right.
Ford. But with the Warren, I felt something, kind of compassion. Not necessarily pity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I learned years later that he has a private conversation with LBJ. So maybe his position was such that he has to do it a certain way,
Uh-huh.
So. And that if he's not a stupid man and had been insider for a long time, I'm for sure he could put two and two together.
I was candid with Marina about the obstacles I faced at the Post in getting a story about her into the paper, though I didn't know the half of it at the time. She was wiser than me.
I'm not optimistic about that they're going to embrace everything that's telling the truth. Are you surprised?
About?
That article not being, that your bosses don't want to publish? They don't want to have a, profile of the woman and things like that.
Right.
I have to live with assassination.
Right.
Because it's never had been solved for me.
As our conversation went on, I began to get a sense of Marina's burden, her terrible predicament. After JFK was killed, she was a mother of two living in a foreign country whose language she barely spoke. Her husband had been accused of a terrible crime, executed on national TV, and condemned by an official investigation that never gave him the presumption of innocence. If Lee was guilty, she said, she could have tolerated her situation. But he was not guilty, and her children had to live with the consequences. It would take a Franz Kafka or George Orwell to imagine such a nightmarish scenario, and Marina had lived it for decades. Her life, she said, was in shreds.
I have been chiseling through every damn book for not information and theories, but for the factual evidence that can back you out in a court of law.
Right.
Well, I even have a meeting with 5 lawyers, and they told me that I cannot go through the court of law because Lee never had a trial. So it was nothing that I can, put my foot into it. So now I'm devastated to the point that not to the point, but I'm just blown out of my mind.
Okay.
For simple reason that it's so many abusive remarks and jokes. It's chiseled in people's mind. With the name Lee Harvey Oswald, it comes something that next to the Hitler, something.
Right.
What do you call it?
So.
Very bad. So let's assume that Lee did not have a trial. Not that he didn't want to, but things have happened.
Right.
But I am living not with the stigma that attached to the name. If it was the rightfully so that was my life, I have to endure it. But when you get at the facts and you're not allowed to present them anywhere, so how can I defend myself? It just came to the point that it's just me. My life is in, in shreds, and nothing I can do about it. Once upon a life, you have to say, enough, and I had enough.
Why couldn't she get any kind of legal redress, I wanted to know.
Now, was the question before the lawyers, what can Marina Porter do now legally?
It seemed to me that they were breaking their brains out, trying to find some kind of loop in the law. How can I enter court of law? Because for me to make interviews and agree with this book or disagree with this book, they're just a matter of opinion. People already made up their mind, guilty or innocent or in between.
Right.
Okay? But since I have to take abuse, which now the conclusions of the Warren Commission and the House Select Committee, that's the legal, voice.
Right.
Okay? So their standing is that Lee is one, lone assassin.
Right.
Okay? So even though people doesn't believe, public, how many percentage, I did not take the, survey.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Whatever the poll indicates, it's one thing. But I cannot protest against those people who making those remarks because they said, well, the legally it stands. Guilty as charged. Do you follow me?
Right.
And since with all my interviews and things like that, I become a public figure, so they say, well, it's just too tough.
Right, you're a public figure. People can say whatever.
Insult you as long as you can, as long as you live.
Marina told me about the first time she went public. In the early 1980s, when a persistent JFK conspiracy theorist claimed Oswald had not been buried in Dallas, Marina agreed to exhume the body to debunk the theory. The exhumation debunked the theory all right, yet perversely served to discredit her. I was naive enough to think she might get help from Congress. She disabused me of my innocence by talking about her congressman. Incidentally, Mr. Ralph Hall died in 2017, so Marina's remarks cannot be considered libelous.
Have you ever gone to a lawyer yourself?
I had so many lawyers that I would not trust. The only one that I ever trusted, which wasn't having anything to do with this case, he's dead. But the rest of it, some of them were, all of them were dishonest, but at least one has the decency to say that I took your case only for the money. And when he was handled, what I want him to handle is he was arranging interviews with the National Enquirers for the pay, for the pay.
Right.
Behind my back.
Have you talked to your congressman?
Anyway, those lawyers, supposed to be lawyers or whoever, they said that there is no way in the books of law
that you can do anything
in the court of law, and that's only one way I can settle this matter once and for all.
Okay, so you can't do anything legally.
Because Okay. Warren Commission was investigative body, and they protect themselves by saying that we only just that. This is our findings, okay? But their findings become like a law of the land. I cannot break through it.
Right. Okay, you can't sue the Warren Commission. Okay, have you talked to your congressman?
Which one? My congressman?
Yeah.
Okay, you want me to tell about my congressman? His son, whom I trusted, volunteered to take pictures of exhumation. Remember that awful thing? That I tried to prove to American people that all those conspiracy people, just the crazy ones.
Uh-huh.
So I went as far as, just to stop that. Well, was that fiasco? So, They never they gave me partially some of the films, but never the pictures. And the congressman laughed at my when I demand that from the son. He never even had the courage to face me. His daddy, the local congressman, faced me, and he told me how nice he was to us, allowed us to live in this county. You know.
What's his name?
Hall.
Congressman Hall.
Mm-hmm. Ralph Hall. And the whole town is afraid of this godfather. He had been in that politics for so long, since everybody, he owned the whole damn town. You know how people are afraid of the one, sheriff?
Right.
Long time ago? Well, that's the Mr. Hall.
To her credit, Marina tried everything, and she was thwarted at every turn. She was gracious enough not to mention Tom Brokaw's inexcusable rudeness to make a commonsensical point. President Clinton could have pardoned her first husband. Any president could. Any president can.
During the interview with, I forgot who it was, Brokaw, okay?
Uh-huh.
I took my chance and I said, I would like to ask President Clinton to pardon Lee Harvey Oswald from the crime that he did not commit. I was laughed at because they said, well, how he can be pardoned if he never had been trial? You know what I mean? Which is a legal point. So I came home and I told my husband what it is. And he said, how come Nixon was pardoned for the crime that he did not commit?
Right.
So apparently presidents have that kind of power.
We talked about what else she might do. I was looking for something to enhance the newsworthiness of my piece and make it harder for the Post to say no. She wondered about Janet Reno, President Clinton's attorney general, who had recently approved the FBI raid at Waco that resulted in the deaths of scores of members of an anti-government religious sect.
What do you think of Janet Reno? She's attorney general. She can clean blood off of her hands by doing something right once.
She can't initiate anything.
She initiated the whole damn, what do you call it?
It's outside the legal system.
Oh, really?
Right. It's got to come.
Who is more legal than Attorney General of the United States?
It's outside the legal system. What you got to do is you got to go to Congress.
Who is the highest in the legal system? I guess then it's the Congress.
It's the Attorney General.
Okay, then I want to go to the Attorney General.
You want to go to the Attorney General, and what do you say to her?
She represents the legal matter.
Right. Okay.
She ought to give the order to investigate this matter, or appoint some kind of jury.
Okay. So you want Janet Reno to reopen the investigation?
Not the one that we had before. Not the facts, guarding the, what do you call it? Guarding the chicken coop. People who have nothing to gain with the, you know what I mean? They're not going to run for this or this or that. I don't know what to do, to tell you the truth.
Right,
what would you do in my place?
What tormented Marina was that it seemed to make no difference that a solid majority of Americans consistently agreed that JFK was not killed by one man alone. Yet popular opinion seemed to have no effect on the government and media's preferred narrative of November 22nd, 1963. The fact that most people rejected the story that Lee was the lone gunman seemed to count for nothing with the powers that be in America.
I went public so many times. Public has no power to change legal status, you understand?
You got public support, but it's got to be more.
It has to be. I realize that the public. See, I believe in public and all, all the democracy and all these things. I waited too long since, the 25th anniversary. Nothing happened. Public could believe 99.9%, but they are powerless to do so. So when they insult me over there, oh, Lee did it, they hide behind that. Because that's what all those governmental investigations, which never were investigations, that was their finding.
She shared how the flawed verdict of written history afflicted her on a regular basis.
Well, see, like people, like kids will send me letters, and they have a little newspaper over there, and they do not. Most of the class believe that Lee was guilty. Why do you think they believe that? Because it's in their textbooks, which is absolutely wrong. Don't you think so? To teach whole generation or the students of absolute lie, That's not right.
After listening to our conversation from long ago, I admire Marina Oswald Porter even more now than I did then. And I understood why she was no longer interested in talking to the media. In 2013, CNN and NPR did stories about Marina and her two daughters, who now had children of their own. Oswald's wife and daughters were quite explicit in stating publicly that they believed Lee was not guilty of killing JFK and that the government should come clean. CNN proceeded to demonstrate its bias by quoting one journalist, Hugh Ainsworth, a well-known defender of the Warren Report, on what the three women believed. Ainsworth asserted, without evidence, that Marina had been, quote, manipulated, unquote, by unidentified conspiracy theorists. CNN did not quote anyone defending her defense of her late husband. In short, the cable network all but declared that this mother of three and grandmother of five was not capable of making up her own mind, as if she and her professionally accomplished daughters could not come to any rational conclusion on their own. They were, Ainsworth suggested, weak-minded and deluded. CNN's message was, don't believe the women. That's not an argument or analysis. It's an insult. Who can blame Marina Oswald and her children for not talking to news organizations that demonstrate no interest in balance or fairness in their JFK reporting? Their bias is so blatant they don't deserve respect or cooperation or an answer. The JFK Facts podcast, by contrast, wants you to hear the story that the mainstream news organizations distort. We want you to know the facts they fear to report. We want to give Marina Oswald Porter the last word, because this is almost certainly the last time the widow of the falsely accused assassin will speak about the events of 1963 and its terrible aftermath. And why do I admire Marina Oswald Porter? I admire her for her dignity and intelligence. I admire her for defending her first husband, the father of two of her children, against long odds, widespread hostility, and shameful condescension. Most of all, I admire her for believing the truth matters to the people and the history of the United States. Before his execution, Lee Oswald said he was a patsy for others who had assassinated JFK. Marina, who knew Lee as well as anyone, believed him. Time and the latest JFK files show that she was almost certainly right to do so. She deserved and deserves better from her adopted country. This is the last word from Marina Oswald Porter. It's past time she be heard.